Well, thank you so much for coming in today and delivering the class. It was a great class.
Sure. Thank you. I enjoyed
it. Just for the audience, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you come from and your expertise?
Yeah. My name's Doug Rhein, or Douglas Rhein. I'm North American, and I have a background in psychology. I spent a few years working with schizophrenics, and I developed an interest in concepts of delusions and hallucinations. And I moved over to Asia, and I got very interested in media. And I was reading books like Chomsky's Manufacturing Consent and other applications of media to control populations. And I just tended to focalize on how psychology and media overlap and interplay from the cultural, social, and many different areas, even entertainment media, and Hollywood's use of psychology in film. And I just find it very interesting.
So can you give us an example of psychology effectively used in film then, since you mentioned this crossover?
Yeah, there's a lot of good examples. I think the classic examples would be movies like The Shining, or perhaps you can look at some of the examples we did today with Hannibal Lecter, and looking at films, everything from Silence of the Lambs to Red Dragon, and you can even go to comedies. Today we were talking about Mean Girls, and social psychology in Mean Girls and how that affects people's relationships and social comparison. And there is a lot of psychology in every film, from horrors to romantic comedies and, Hannibal Lecter series.
So how is this class particularly designed to introduce these new filmmakers into the idea of psychology?
Okay. What we did was we broke the class up into different areas of psychology: social psychology, personality psychology, abnormal or psychopathology, and then we discussed very common or concepts that people agree on and gave films as examples. So, for example, I was talking about obsessive compulsive disorder. So we had to mention Jack Nicholson and his movies, As Good as It Gets, and we talked about What About Bob with Bill Murray, using both comedies and dramas and trying to personalize it. I also had a lot of the students that weren't familiar with all of the films think of examples in media from their home country, or even personalize the theories and think of examples from their life and their background. So everything about psychology, we tend to see if you personalize it, people can apply it and they remember it for much longer term. So it's better if we can personalize all the theories and all the course materials.
In an applied sense then, do you think filmmakers should have a basic knowledge of psychology, since we conduct this class and you come in to deliver the class?
Yes, it's absolutely essential. If you can't understand what audience expectations, you can't understand plot dynamics, character development, use of light and other sensory intake, you can't really create the right message, and it won't be perceived by the audience the way the director intends it to be perceived. So you'll be creating in a vacuum. And what you'll be creating is for yourself, and what you want is to really create and let the audience walk away with it and interpret it the way they want to interpret it. So I would say for any filmmaker, understanding of psychology is very important. The best filmmakers, Oliver Stone, Gus Van Sant, some of the best, apply psychology to almost every scene. It's fascinating how the true experts do this.
Since we are in the world of education, and you are yourself a cross-cultural training specialist as well as an expert in psychology, what do you hope, in delivering this class, what do you hope to see in future filmmakers incorporating these ideas? What do you hope to see in movies in the future?
A few things. Obviously the first, I'd like to see their interest in psychology. To me, that's the best part, is that they're taking ideas and theories and saying, oh, so that's why they did this, and oh, that's why that happened. So to see that they're interested in it is a reward of itself. Secondly, application. It upsets me when I'm watching movies or watching television and I see these characters that are completely unrealistic, that don't follow modern theory. Most recent example of a situation of rape that we found, sexual assault, and the leaders were talking about victim-precipitated rape, that the woman deserved it based on what she was wearing and who she was with. And that doesn't follow any modern theories of sexual assault and rape theory. There are many conflicting theories, but I would like to see modern media start to use more psychology in interpreting situations so that both the audience is more well informed and the media creators as well create more realistic interpretations of these phenomena.
Do you think people will actually buy into that? That it's, is it too accurate? Because when you go to movies, it's about suspension of beliefs, and maybe it is exaggerated from the textbooks. What do you think?
Obviously, with some media, you want the suspension of belief, escapism, right? I mean, why would we go to watch the Avengers or Marvel characters if we didn't want escapism? That's very important. But with more serious topics, such as sexual assault, as I mentioned, I would rather have it be realistic interpretations and as opposed to pie-in-the-sky ideas of what's happening. Now, within any of these, there's going to be people in society that simply believe what they see. And they may walk away from Independence Day thinking the aliens have taken Earth. But I don't think the majority of society does that. We have a brain, and we do interpret media based on our own backgrounds. So the majority of audiences are intelligent, and in the more insightful, intelligent products we give them, perhaps the more insightful, intelligent responses they will have. So I'd like to create this discussion and hope that people do respond and participate in the debate.
So basically, you're saying that by increasing the quality of the media, you will also, in the long run, educate the consumers as well and change consumer behavior trends.
Yes. I don't think you can have democracy, freedom of expression, an educated electorate without a free media that promotes this open exchange of ideas. And that's on social media. It doesn't have to be film. It could be Twitter or Pinterest or Facebook. I just like the free flow of discussion of ideas based on facts and reason instead of superstition and myth.
Well then, would you like to give a message or like to comment on the relationship between psychology and filmmaking and for future filmmakers to start thinking about this?
It depends at what level. At this level, a lot of the students that we work with here at SAE have a very good understanding of the role of psychology and its impact in character development and plot sequences. Very good. For younger students, perhaps in high school or introductory students, I would say watch as many films as possible and read about them. Go on to the chat rooms, go on to the discussions. If you're interested in that movie, really get interested in it and read about it. Look at the director's background, watch the interviews. There's so much available on Rotten Tomatoes and YouTube and chat rooms that you can really get absorbed 360 degrees into the different aspects of movie making. So that would be my recommendation or my suggestion for young students, is to really don't just do this for entertainment and relaxation, to try and understand the messages behind it.
Since you mentioned SAE, what is your impression of us, and why do you think conducting this class is really essential to our program, digital filmmaking?
I'm impressed by the facilities, first of all. You have great sound rooms, you have the green, it's incredible, the facilities here. So that's a really good opportunity for students that choose to come and study at SAE because you've got everything here. They also seem to have a very good background in media. We could talk about films from the 1950s and 60s today, and they were familiar with it. The students were familiar with Howard Hughes. They were familiar with some of the old classic directors and, Hitchcock, and we talked about Oliver Stone and some of the, I would assume that most 17-year-olds around the world are not, 18-year-olds are not familiar with this. So I'm impressed with both the facilities and the students, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they produce and what comes out of this.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Doug. It's been a pleasure having you here, and thank you so much for your time sitting down with us in this interview.
Great, thank you.